Is there suspense? Absolutely. So you guys need to put on your Sherlock Holmes hat, and we need to figure out this murder mystery and this crime and this whole interrogation and who did it. So we need to think detail by detail. So today I'm going to do page 40 to 51 in the book, The Rag and Bone Shop. Alvin Dark asked, "What do you have?" "A suspect," Braxton said. "What else?" "A senator who's driving me up a wall. Press and television asking questions I can't answer. A section of town up in arms. That's going to be mad as hell if we don't come up with something." So do you see what's going on? They need to find somebody, but they don't have anybody. So normally, you guys can figure this out when this happens. They just take someone who perhaps didn't do it, interrogate them until, they torture them until they confess. So that's what's going on. The district attorney didn't appear sympathetic as he sipped his coffee, but he did appear relaxed and at ease. Why not? He had managed to abandon headquarters for a few hours of sleep. "Do you have a suspect?" Dark said, sarcastic, taunting. And a gut feeling, and Braxton realized the statement probably sounded pathetic, but his gut feelings had paid off in the past, and Alvin Dark knew it. But Dark wasn't giving an inch. "Gut feelings don't hold up before grand juries," he said, "or in courtrooms. You know what we need." "Right," Braxton said, feeling like a schoolboy and resenting the hell out of the fact that Dark, 2 years younger, made him feel like a schoolboy. "Physical evidence. Don't you have anything to link the suspect to the crime?" Dark asked, and then wryly, "Besides that gut feeling?" "Well, gut feelings have worked in the past. The evidence came later." "But can you afford to wait till later? What we really need is a confession," Braxton said tentatively, "from your suspect." Again, that touch of sarcasm. Time for the big move, Braxton thought, and here goes. There's an interrogator by the name of Trent. Operates out of a small department up in Vermont, has quite a reputation. They say he can get blood out of a stone. His name sounds vaguely familiar, Dark said. "Tell me more." "He conducts seminars all over the place, answers calls throughout the Northeast. He likes interesting cases and challenges." "What makes you think he'll come here?" "Gibbons," Braxton said. "Gibbons is a law and order man, influential, chairman of important Senate committees. Someone to hitch your star to. I understand Trent is an ambitious man. I think we can use the senator as bait." Alvin Dark sipped his coffee. Watch me. "Oh yeah." Slowly, deliberately. "I don't like outsiders coming in," he said at last. "Well, this man's uncanny," Braxton said, doing a sales job. "Part of a new breed of interrogators, trained to extract confessions. He never fails." Dark was silent, made a great show of finishing his coffee, dabbing his lips with the napkin. He swiveled his chair toward the window. "He's out there, the killer of a child. Whether he's your suspect or not, what bothers me is having a killer out there." "It bothers me too," Braxton said, covering his mouth, trying to resist his desperate yawn. Alvin Dark cracked his knuckles on the table. He liked to think of himself as a man of action. "Okay, call him." Command in his voice as if Braxton were an underling. "Fine," Braxton said, overlooking the district attorney's superior attitude. The important thing was getting Trent here, not engaging Alvin Dark in a battle of egos. He wanted to turn Trent loose on the boy, get him to admit his guilt. The prospect was almost as sweet as the thought of a good night's sleep. So I don't know, just by after reading this chapter, I can smell corruption 1,000 miles away. Something smells really bad. So they just want to get some confession from somebody so that the media and the press get off their backs. So this is bad. This is unjust. This happened in the Bible in the days of Jeremiah, and Jeremiah just cursed people for it. Okay, next chapter, page 44. Trent received the call from Detective Lieutenant George Braxton moments after he had obtained a confession from a murder from Adolf Califer, a respected broker who finally admitted that he had strangled his next-door neighbor with whom he had been carrying on an illicit affair. Wow. Califer had been brilliant during the questioning, pairing Trent's questions with questions of his own, or with answers that were not really answers. He had managed to avoid Trent's verbal traps and seemed to take pleasure in it, as if an entertaining game were in progress. At times he not only anticipated the questions, but answered them eagerly, so certain was he of his defenses, so confident of his replies. For a moment or two, Trent had wondered whether Califer would be his first failure. He thought of the reactions of the other cops and detectives in the department, who'd be happy to see him fail. The Highgate Police Department was small, with a roster of only 10 full-time officers in charge of a Vermont town near the Canadian border. Trent knew that he was the object of resentment by the other cops. He had never fit the mold from the beginning. Trent had quit college in the pursuit of a degree in psychology to fulfill a childhood dream: becoming a cop. He had continued taking courses as he went from beat cop to the detective squad, in a career that wasn't spectacular but was nevertheless successful, particularly in the questioning of witnesses and suspects. The population of Highgate swelled during the winter skiing season, and Trent had made his mark when he obtained a confession to 4 gruesome murders from a serial killer. The resulting headlines had established Trent's reputation. He found himself on call from other departments. He polished his techniques, studied all kinds of interrogative methods, and ultimately developed his own system. He conducted occasional seminars and envisioned breaking away entirely from police work and the unending litany of confessions. He was aware that he was waiting for the right case to come along. Meanwhile, there was Califer. Focusing on him, Trent began to tire of the cat-and-mouse moves. He had an ace up his sleeve, but the trick was to play it at the right time, to be patient, to await the proper moment. So he allowed Califer to conduct his game of interrogative hide-and-seek. Interrogations called for flexibility and subtlety with the rules and regulations that Trent had developed. And at times a waiting game had to be played with patience as the watchword. Whatever weapons Trent had at his disposal had to be brought into play when it was psychologically right. The weapons, of course, consisted of information that the subject didn't know Trent possessed, or most often knowledge of the subject that Trent had detected during the questioning itself. At a moment when Califer was off guard and thus vulnerable, Trent had made the decisive move. "What was your daughter's name?" he asked quite innocently, almost casually. Stunned, Califer turned away, averting his eyes for the first time during the interrogation. When he looked at Trent again, he couldn't disfigure his astonishment. Trent saw Califer's defenses begin to crumble. "She's dead," Califer said, voice flat with resignation, shoulders slumping, chin dropping to his chest. "I know," Trent said, making his voice soothing and sympathetic, one of the many voices he employed during his confrontations with suspects. "She was only 5 when she died," Califer said, voice breaking now. Trent had not only waited for the proper moment to spring the question, but had attacked Califer from the inside, not the outside, touching the one vital spot where Califer was vulnerable. 10 minutes later, Califer confessed. 5 minutes after that, Trent received the call from Detective Lieutenant George Braxton. "I'm calling from Monument, down in Massachusetts," Braxton said. "We need your services here desperately." "And why is that?" Trent asked dryly, knowing the answer, of course. The town's in an uproar over the murder of a child. We have a suspect who needs interrogation. Can you help us? Carl Seaton Califer, all within 6 days. He didn't need another so soon. How did you reach me? He asked, knowing that he was stalling. He never could resist an appeal to his expertise. Your department in Highgate gave us your number in Rutland. I've been standing by until you wrapped up your current interrogation. Congratulations, I understand you scored another one. Braxton's congratulations rang hollow to the words, but the words still pleased him. Trent knew, however, where Braxton's real interest lay. Sure enough, Braxton immediately proved him right. Can you come? Where's Monument? Trent asked, only going through the motions, really. Central Massachusetts, about 4 hours from Highgate. Trent heard him pause. Senator Gibbons is interested in the case. He said to call this to your attention. His grandson knew the victim. They were in the 2nd grade together. Braxton had played his ace, and Trent's interest quickened. The senator was a man of powerful authority and influence. He was an advocate of tough anti-crime laws. A good man to have in your corner. Details? Trent said. He heard the relief in Braxton's voice as he recited the details of the too familiar situation. The murdered girl, the tension-filled town, and the suspect. He's more than a suspect, someone we feel is the perp. 12-year-old neighbor of the victim, Braxton added. Evidence? Well, that's the hitch. No physical evidence. No witnesses. No weapon. No fingerprints. That's why we're calling you. We have a suspect who fits the profile, but we need a confession. Otherwise, he walks. Is the scenario in place? Trent asked. The answer to this question would determine whether he would accept the assignment. No hesitation on Braxton's part. Yes, the scenario is in place. We know about your work with Fallow and Blake. Trent frowned at the mention of Blake. Blake had been an aberration with a predisposition to confessing. Arrangements? Senator Gibbons will provide transportation. He'll have a driver at your disposal. Pick you up anywhere and any time. I really like how the book is developing. Now we're starting to understand the earlier chapters. How much time will I have with the suspect? 3 hours, maybe 4. Parents? Father's away on a business trip. We anticipate that the mother will accept the scenario. Trent's mind still echoed from the ping-pong-like questioning session with Califer and his too smooth, too confident voice and the effort it had taken him to break him down. He had a sudden urge to reject this new assignment. But do I want to be a small-town cop all my life? How could he turn his back on a case that would leave a powerful senator in his debt? Fax me the details, Trent said, giving Braxton his number. Everything. Spell it out. I don't want to have to read between the lines, and I don't like surprises later. Right, Braxton said. And have your driver pick me up at Highgate at 6 sharp in the morning. Right, Braxton said again. Trent hung up the phone, despising himself for allowing a politician to influence his decision. But then Trent had despised himself for quite a long time. Anyway. So yeah, it's getting more exciting, and I'm starting to see how the whole thing develops, and something is starting to smell kind of rotten in the state of Denmark, meaning something phony, something against the law, something unrighteous, something that does not represent justice. So thanks for listening, guys.